A very warm welcome to you at home. I am Musam Khalipi, and this is Afroshowbiz News, the show that brings you all things art and entertainment from around the African continent. Now, to keep in touch, feel free to email us at afroshowbiznews@sabc.co.za. Also follow us on Twitter. Our handle is @AfroShowbizNews. Let's have a look at stories making headlines this week. Somalia holds its first cultural festival in 20 years to mark improvement in security. Project Treasure Tresh holds a festival in Egypt. South African film Four Corners named Best Feature Film at the Niagara Integrated Film Festival in Canada. Somalia recently held its first cultural festival in 20 years to mark improvement in security. The event featured music, dance, and poetry. It was held at the capital, Mogadishu.
Participants came from various parts of the country. The event had been on a break for a decade due to political unrest in the country. The war in Somalia made it impossible for people to attend public events like this one. This was also due to Al-Shabaab guerrillas who banned football, music, and forbade women from wearing bras in Somali.
Today I would like to urge the performers and artists to strive in uniting the government and its people. Make use of theatre, music, poetry and other cultural performances and use it to unite the people. I want them to promise us that.
Women at the event sang to the plucking of guitars as the audience applauded and danced to various songs. Many Somali artists, actors and singers had fled the violence as Al-Shabaab banned any form of art in the country.
I can say this is a program that really needed to happen. One of the biggest casualties of the civil war is our culture. So reclaiming our culture is one of the most important things we can do. Every society has something to be proud of. For Somalis, it is an enduring historical culture, and it is something we can be proud of, and we need to reclaim.
The festival was organized with support from the United Nations, France, Germany, and the United States.
Across the Bridge Sessions is a series of concerts staged by the Baseline in Newtown. The music event took place for the first time on Friday and featured an array of musicians such as Zolani Mahola and the Black Cat Bones. Inspired by the iconic Mandela Bridge that crosses between Braamfontein into Newtown, the event aimed to attract people across the bridge and bridge the gaps between musical genres. The event featured an explosive lineup including Zolani of Freshly Ground fame and Black Cat Bones from New Orleans in the United States of America. Each event is structured around a theme and featured a mix of some of the most influential and emerging talents. The sessions were accompanied by food that reflects the theme to transport the audience into a musical world. Zolani and Black Cat Bones first worked together early in the year in a collaborative experience which fused their different musical genres. The Runway Train Cult opened the event. Popular in their own right, the band plays gypsy folk jazz and complemented the opening performances. The National Arts Festival has earlier this week announced a new award for advocacy through arts. The event is also celebrating its 40th year in existence.
The award is called the Adelaide Tambo Award for Human Rights in the Arts. It has been introduced to honor Adelaide Tambo's passion for the arts and her deep commitment for human rights. It will recognize artists who continue to engage in the art as a platform to advocate social change and to establish South Africa's human rights culture. The award is also supported by the Tambo family and the role the art has played in transforming South Africa from apartheid to a constitutional democracy. The festival, now celebrating its 40th year, has approved its sustainability and has grown to be one of the most leading arts festivals in the country. It will take place in Grahamstown from the 3rd of July to the 13th of the same month.
The PPC Cement Company has just launched the Imaginarium Awards. These awards aim to promote arts and design in the country. Now, on Wednesday, a collaboration of fashion and the use of cement in making various artworks was unveiled. For more on this, we are joined in studio by Dion Chang, thought leader of the project, as well as a trendsetter. Hello and welcome to Afroshowbiz News.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Now, Dion, what brought about the creation of these awards?
Well, I think for PPC, they've been doing a sculpture award for about 20 years, which has become quite an iconic award. And I think it's a new millennium, new century, and I think they just decided to reinvent it. So this one is actually open up to 6 disciplines in the creative field. So fashion, jewelry design, architecture, art, and product design. And it encompasses a much wider range of creative industries. So, and each pillar has a thought leader, and each pillar, whoever wins that, wins about 50,000 rands worth of prize money.
All right. Now, Dion, how has your experience in fashion influenced these awards?
Well, I think it's a combination of what I do now, which is run a trends company, Flux Trends, and just being in the creative field and looking at design in general. So my role is really to be the champion across all of the 6 pillars, and to as it rolls out, we're going to do workshops so that each of the thought leaders helps the younger creatives in those industries to produce stuff. And my role really is to encourage cross-disciplinary collaboration, which is the new trend.
Speaking of collaboration, tell us about the collaboration between cement and fashion.
It happened about 2 years ago when it took everybody quite by surprise when PPC actually supported designer Suzanne Haynes, and everyone thought, well, how are you going to mix concrete and cement and fashion, but they did it beautifully. It was all about the tones of the concrete and the application of dust onto the clothing. So what we're trying to do is ask people to really go and push the envelope, and which is why. So, you know, for example, in Cape Town there was a fashion film festival recently. So, you know, even if you're a designer, maybe collaborate with a product designer or industrial designer or a jewelry designer, create a film. So we want to really promote that cross collaboration, but also mostly just to ignite the creative fields as well.
Now, Dion, the next awards will be taking place next year, Feb. Tell us about the process leading to then.
What we do now is start to roll out and have some workshops with each of the key industries. So architecture will have something, jewelry design, fashion design will do that. As we're doing that, we just really want to promote and make sure that the entrants get as much help as possible, as much guidance, because they've got incredible thought leaders in each of the categories. So, for example, David Tlali in the fashion pillar, sculptor Diane Victor, who's going to help those people. So really you know, high-level people that are able to, people that want to enter the awards are able to tap into. And I think they should really take that opportunity, because you've got the ear of these people, and you don't normally have that.
Yes, of course. Now, as a trendsetter, how is fashion? How are the fashion trends in the world changed rather?
I think it's really odd to say it for me, but I don't think there are really prescriptive trends in fashion. You're seeing a move towards a tipping point that is still coming, and that's what I'm kind of feeling, that we need a new point of view, because I think we've looked at celebrity culture far too long, and there's just kind of mass fashion, and we are going into an era of new design movements, which is why the Imaginarium Awards is so exciting for me to help and champion.
All right. Now, Dion, you also published a book titled New Urban Tribes of South Africa. Tell us a bit more about that. It
was a bit of my challenge to the advertising industry, because we always segment people by LSMs, so living standards measurements. So, you know, and my question, I wrote a column and I said, you know, why am I being defined by my fridge? Because if you are in those sort of, you know, if you are able to own certain appliances, you get pushed up into different socio-economic brackets. So Urban Tribes is more about like-mindedness and how people clump together. So it's more about psychographics rather than demographics. And we had really interesting ones. We looked deep under the skin of South African pop culture, and you had things like Single Mom Double Lives and the new Empowerment Kugel and the Afrikaans Artiste. We really looked at the subcultures in South Africa and brought a sort of a modern take on them.
All right, and now briefly, Dion, for all aspiring artists out there, how can they now become thought leaders like yourself?
I think it's a long journey. You've got to really you've got to be passionate about your craft, and I think this is the problem always with creative industries and creative people. You use your left brain, your right brain, and you don't really use your left brain enough. But what we're seeing in a digital era and in the 21st century, you've got to kind of really have both disciplines. So for me, being a creative, it's a hard journey, but you've got to learn the business of what you're doing in order to become successful.
All right, thank you so much, Dion. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. An exhibition titled A New Jerusalem by renowned artist Jackson Hlongwane of Limpopo province is currently taking place at the University of Johannesburg Art Gallery, and it ends on the 16th of July.
Jackson Hlongwane is one of South Africa's most celebrated sculptors during his life, and since his passing in 2010, this Limpopo artist has grown as a legend not only because of his unique and powerful sculptures, but also because of being a preacher and a visionary. Since the 1980s, Hlongwane's work has been shown in Europe and America and represented in major public and private art collections, both nationally and internationally.
He was a very spiritual man, and he was a healer. He taught sculpture to other people. But what was fascinating is that he could cross over between African worldview and Christianity. He was a Tsonga, and the world just oscillated between the two worldviews, which was for him a natural thing to work with.
The exhibition will be complemented by an educational program targeting students, schools, and communities.
Thousands of art statues claimed to have been looted by the British soldiers in the 19th century have been returned to Nigeria. This has prompted calls for other stolen treasure to be returned. For more than a century, the artifacts from Benin, Bronze's collection, have been in the family of retired medical consultant Mark Walker, whose grandfather was involved in the 1897 British Rage in which they were taken. But last week, the statues depicting an ibis bird and the traditional monarchy's bell were given back to the King of Benin, Uku Akpolokpolo Erendiawa, at a ceremony attended by royal officials and local dignitaries. The royal palace was looted in the 1800s, resulting in the removal of hundreds of artworks. Nigeria had previously requested the return of these Benin bronzes, which they have now found its way back home. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Project Treasure Trash is holding a festival in Egypt which aims to address the perception of trash, its possible value and the role of recycled art. This is in line with encouraging people to start utilizing trash more wisely. The festival aims to raise awareness about the protection of the environment and waste management. The artistic recycling development project named Treasured Trash started last year when a group of Egyptians started thinking about ways of changing the perception of arts. The result was an explosion of products by different designers. The festival was held at DAB 1718 Contemporary Art and Culture Center. Reem Hatem, Vice President of DAB, shared these sentiments.
The idea is how to guide society to use the rubbish or everything that is wasted around us. We can create things that may benefit us or create things that make us feel comfortable, whether it's beautification or practical.
Treasured Trash provides a space for creative designer companies of recycled goods to display their products. Several stands were set up and an array of recycled goods ranging from recycled plastic bottles made into chairs to yoga mats made into purses were exhibited. One company, Azasti, utilizes plastic water bottles to create products. One of the designers, Enes Mohammed, claims that only about 1 to 2% of trash in Egypt is recycled into goods.
Our roads are full of rubbish. Unfortunately, in Egypt, only about 1 to 2% from all the trash is recycled. Even when things are recycled, they are recycled wrong, like the wood, but the metal and the plastics are not recycled. They are thrown away or exported to other countries, where they are then recycled and sold back to us.
This development project announced that starting in 2014, an Egyptian community residing in Fustat, Old Cairo, will engage in a democratic discussion on the concept of trash and will receive free training in recycling art by expert artists from Egypt and abroad. The annual Dhaka Fashion Week got underway with the launch of Africa Fashion TV. The channel will focus on the latest in African continent. Fashion enthusiasts gathered in Senegal for this year's Dakar Fashion Week. The event has become an indicator of the latest trends and has become popular with various African and foreign designers. In its 12th edition, this 4-day festivity included more than 19 designers from Africa as well as the United States of America and Holland. With fashion growing bigger and bolder at home, Dakar Fashion Week is starting to register on the radar of design houses and style magazines abroad. Stylist Adama Ndiaye says authorities do not give the industry enough recognition.
There
are many things that have changed, especially when it comes to designer participation. There are more and more designers coming from all over the world, from Europe to Asia, and that's a very good thing. We are seeing an increasing number of press coverage of the event, which has also contributed to the growing popularity of the event.
Malheureusement, la seule mauvaise évolution, c'est mon pays qui ne suit pas vraiment.
This event also saw the official launch of Africa Fashion TV, a channel dedicated to all things pertaining to African fashion. Organizers are hoping through the channel to encourage a demand for local African designs where buyers often opt for Western designs. Maskandi musicians are celebrating 20 years of democracy through the 7th edition of the Experience Sibasha, set to take place in Soweto. Musicians will be taking turns on the stage performing as well as encouraging the youth to be proud of their country and to be proud of the democracy that has been achieved. The event taking place at Sharp Stadium in Soweto will see an array of musicians who have made their mark in the local Maskandi scene, including Shri Nomtekala, Ingokama Elisha Nomtagati, as well as Lubege Kuzwayo. Organizers say the event will also be used to mark the contribution that was made by the 1976 youth in achieving this democracy. Frank Talk is an initiative by the Steve Biko Foundation that aims to advance public education about the Bill of Rights amongst the youth. Now, the foundation recently held one of their dialogues titled African Culture and Customs, Are They Still Relevant? Now, joining us in studio is Obenwa Ambonsa, director of the Steve Biko Foundation. Hello, and welcome to Afroshowbiz News.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Now, how has the reaction from the youth been with regards to these dialogues?
The reaction has been quite significant. We have more and more people coming to join us in studio every month. In addition to that, we have a number of people who listen on radio on a regular basis, and a number of individuals have actually started to form listening groups so they can watch it together and dialogue in their homes exactly where they are.
Now, who was part of this recent dialogue?
During this recent dialogue, we had 3 guests. One was Dr. Simpiwe Sitsani, who is a journalism professor at Stellenbosch University. The second guest was a young artist by the name of Majola, and the third guest was Dr. Tabasani Ndlovu from Wits University.
Now, Obenwa, why do you think that such dialogues are important for the youth in the country?
Well, I think dialogue in general is important, particularly amongst young people. One of the reasons that we began the Frank Talk initiative was because we realized that while people would talk, if they were accountants or doctors or students or unemployed graduates, they wouldn't necessarily talk across those silos. And our belief at the Steve Biko Foundation is that in order for meaningful change to happen in society, that all sectors of society need to come together. And in particular, the topic of culture is very important. It's important because of one, if you look at Steve Biko and his thesis around having an identity that Black people define for themselves, that African people define for themselves. And today we see that as being equally important. A lot of our young people are lost. They don't have a sense of who they are. And so the topic was not meant to prescribe to people what it meant to be African or African culture, but really to create the space for them to engage in a discussion around that topic.
Now, the dialogue focused on African culture and customs. What aspects specifically did you focus on with regards to these topics?
You know, I have to say it was one of the more robust discussions. I think culture is one of those things that hits very close to home. And so we focused on everything from lobola to homosexuality, to the role of women, to traditional leadership. So it was a very wide-ranging discussion, so much so that we're actually looking to do a broader initiative specifically around this topic, because after Tuesday's discussion, it became very apparent that this is something that people are really struggling with, they're grappling with, and they're trying to have a better understanding of.
Now, Obenawa, do you think that the youth knows enough about their culture and customs in South Africa?
I don't. And I think first let me start off by saying that culture is not something that's static, that it changes over time. And I think culture is something that's meant to, it's meant to be a vehicle really for our values. So we'll do things differently over time. And I don't think it's particularly a problem with South African youth not knowing their culture. I think that if you look across the continent and the diaspora to many communities around the world, you see that young people don't really have a sense of their history, their heritage, or where they come from. But I think one of the challenges around culture in Africa is that because we don't know the origins of our culture, we can't even speak authoritatively about it. We make a lot of assumptions about what culture means without having really interrogated it. So for instance, around the point of lobola, one person who's a 23-year-old woman said, "I do not want anyone to lobola for me. Why should I be bought?" Then another audience member actually explained the origin of lobola, what it was about, and the fact that sometimes in the 21st century it has become corrupted. But you could see people's views shifting, and not to say that people have a right not to be lobolaed, but if you're going to make a decision, make an informed decision, is basically the point that we're making.
Now, Obenawa, how are these topics for these dialogues picked? Because you've done a number of other dialogues.
Yes, we do them on a monthly basis in partnership with YFM on air. We also hold a number of them at different community centers throughout the country and university campuses. And really, it's a mixed bag in terms of how we select topics. One of our favorite ways to select topics is really to get suggestions from the general public. And people can always send us a tweet with their particular ideas at Biko Foundation. They can drop us an email, look for us on Facebook. And our website is www.sbf.org.za, and you'll be able to reach us through that. We also really look at sometimes at what's happening on the national calendar to say what makes sense here. So for instance, in September, we might talk about heritage or Steve Biko, given that it's the anniversary of his death. Whereas in November, December, during the 16 days of activism, we might look in particular at gender issues and gender-based violence. So again,
I'm afraid that is where we'll have to leave it. But thank you so much for joining us, Obenawa.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
All right. This week, we have a look at a book titled Traveling with the Rainbow by Anika Batu. The book focuses on John, a Johannesburg-based chartered accountant who received an unexpected visitor, Qola. Qola is approximately 70 years old and has traveled a distance from Namibia. His request is to comment on a search for Rainbow, a boy from a Namibian orphanage. John is first reluctant to accept the challenge, but despite his hesitation, Qola's presence has awakened his thirst for happiness, and the key is the child Rainbow. Now, you are still watching Afroshowbiz News. If you have missed any of our shows, be sure to watch our previous shows on our YouTube channel. We'll now go for a quick ad break, but see you right after. Welcome back. South African film Four Corners has been named the best feature film at the Niagara Integrated Film Festival in Canada. There are 30 other films showing at the festival.
Four Corners is a coming-of-age film that tells the story of a man who leaves prison and has to put his life together. The crime thriller has received yet another award, this time at the Niagara Integrated Film Festival in Canada. And the win is a big plus for director Ian Gabriel.
Letting him go.
There were 30 other films showing in the festival in Canada.
It's nothing to keep me here, really. I haven't spoken to my father for 5 years.
The Best Actor accolade went to Jeffrey Rush for his performance in The Best Offer, directed by Academy Award-winning Giuseppe Tornatore. The Best Actress accolade went to New Zealand actress Hannah Marshall for her performance in The Infinite Man, directed by Hugh Sullivan. Swedish comedy The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out the Window won Best Screenplay for the adaptation of the Jonas Jonasson novel. The Canadian screening was held as part of Four Corners' celebration of Youth Month, which includes the June video on demand release across Africa.
Sudanese rapper Emmanuel Jal is a cast member in the new movie titled A Good Lie. The Hollywood movie trailer was released this week.
He stars alongside Academy Award winner Reese Witherspoon and African stars like Ugandan-born actor Arnold Oseng, South Sudanese actor, model and social activist Jedwan, and newcomer Yakuth Whale.
This is what winter in America feels like.
Our names are on that list.
The movie is about a young refugee of the Sudanese Civil War who wins a lottery for relocating to the United States with 3 other lost boys. Encountering modern world for the first time, they develop an unlikely friendship with a brash American woman assigned to help them. But the young man struggles to adjust to this new life and feelings of guilt about the brother they left behind.
I'll call you tomorrow morning and we'll start the job hunt. I need your help.
Are there any dangerous animals in this area?
Such as?
Lions.
No, there's no lions here. You're safe.
In the movie, Reese plays an American woman who develops a friendship with refugees from the Sudanese Civil War. The official release is set for October 3rd this year.
Holy crap! You can't just break into somebody's house!
There is a reason you do not have a husband.
Okay, thank you so much.
We have now come to the end of our show, but be sure to catch our repeats every Sunday at 2 a.m. and again at 1:30 p.m. From me and the rest of the Afroshowbiz news team, it's thank you and goodbye.